I'm on or not yet? Oh, no, not yet. Now I'm on. Okay. Can you hear? Okay, we're going. You go.
Hi, I'm Bob Alexander, and I'm speaking here with Dave Street, New Wave playwright. Dave, what exactly is New Wave Theater, and what are your plays about?
Okay, for myself as a New Wave playwright, and only speaking for myself, I know that I belong to New Wave because I take a minimalist cartoon drama approach to writing plays, which is totally opposite to everything that has gone on in American theater for the last 20 years or so. What that means in terms of specific plays is, first of all, in terms of minimalism, I say it in 20 minutes. Or I'm even writing 4 or 5 minute plays now that say as much in 4 or 5 minutes as people have wasted 3 hours on a stage, just, you know, to use the same trite lines over and over. Whereas I think it's insulting just to keep repeating the same dialogue from script to script that's always been part of American drama. I also have a very cartoony perception of reality. I see life as a cartoon. I see life, especially in America, as a cartoon. And most of my characters are trapped in the conflict of having human emotions, but being turned into cartoon robots by the computerization of society, so that people really don't have any personality, and so that people, as most of the punks in the scene say, they're bored. And the reason they're bored is because they've been, not only have they been programmed by computers, but they've been programmed by boring computers. And myself as a New Wave playwright am writing in revolt against that whole thing. In fact, we have an acting company called Robot Factory, you know, which kind of admits the fact, we admit that we're robots, but we're berserk robots.
I'm personally familiar with the Robot Factory. You've worked with us at
WBAI at the Benefits.
Good City Rock Show. Could you repeat the storyline to the show you did at Trax with Uncle Son?
The play?
The play?
Well, we have a play coming out this fall called Rock and Roll Drops Dead at Studio 54, which has been in workshop for about 1.5 years. And of course, it's about a terrorist plot to take over Studio 54 and kidnap and maim Andy Warhol. But what it's really about is that how in America, a lot of young people have that same frustrated fantasy, you know, of getting all the rich people killing Warhol, but it never takes place. It takes place in the bedrooms of, you know, frustrated kids who are listening to rock and roll music. And the play is really about that. It's really about being so exposed in American culture to images, bullshit images of who idols are. Andy Warhol's your hero, so-and-so's your hero, Lou Reed's your hero, Rod Stewart's your hero. Well, fuck him, you know. They've come to a point where we have to reject all the heroes that came before us. And this play is rejecting Andy Warhol specifically. And the reason we specifically attacked Warhol is that there was a time when he was a liberator in the very culture. And he was one of the people who opened the door for New Wave culture. But now he's just become an elitist capitalist pig who needs to be removed because he's, you know, he's an asshole.
How do you feel?
And I'm going to destroy him. I'll tell you why I wrote the play. In fact, my motivation for writing the play about getting rid of Warhol was when I was treated like shit by the people at interview because they think they're better than everybody else. And it was when that happens when I decided somebody had to have enough balls to fight Andy Warhol's empire. But I just want to be rich and famous. I don't really want to fight anybody.
Well, isn't Mr. Warhol one of the means of bringing new art to the public? I mean...
Yeah, that's right. By me going against him, by me having him to go against it will make me famous.
What would be some of the other things that you have in the works right now that you plan on presenting in the near future?
Well, I'm actually working on about 3 or 4 scripts that are 2 hours, that are full-length scripts. I'm working on a play right now, which is kind of a 10-year history of Max's Kansas City and all the people I've seen there. I started hanging out at Max's at the end of the Acid Rock days, so I've seen a lot of people go from the changes through acid to glitter to punk. And I guess I'm writing about the people involved in New York City, the frustrations of young America. I guess that's what I'm writing about, the frustrations of young America.
How do you normally go about putting a play together? Do you have to talk to a numerous number of people, get their personal insights? How exactly do you do that?
In terms of the craft of writing, I hallucinate everything I write. I make either people from outer space or from another dimension write my plays with me or for me because everything I've ever written, I've hallucinated before I've written it.
How would you feel if 2 years from now, when you're riding high and you're called the Andy Warhol and Dave Street is now replaced Andy Warhol, and someone comes up and says Dave Street is, represents the commercial elite of New York art. How would you react to that?
I'll probably be too high from all the drugs I'm using to even understand the questions.
Right.
But in terms of putting plays on, I'm one of the few playwrights. I'm not the only one who's done this because the play Hair actually started in a club. But I am the only playwright who has taken the approach of running all my plays in rock and roll clubs instead of in theaters. And that's what I'm going to be running my one-act plays through Robot Factory. And there really hasn't been a playwright who's been smart enough to know that if you're young and innovative as a writer, your market isn't the assholes who go to Broadway or off-Broadway, but your market is young people. You know, colleges and high schools really a market for new theater. And by opening up my plays for rock and roll bands, I believe I'm reaching the market that I feel closest to, that I feel people who I love, people, you know, who I feel my frustration and my energy is the same as their frustrations
and energy. Is that basically who you're writing for now, is rock audiences?
No, I'm not specifically writing for anyone, although I am trying to say specific things. I'm also trying to show alternatives to the non-progressive behavior that people in America get drilled into them. I've also been called a feminist, which is kind of ironic. But in a lot of my plays, I'm writing almost anti-man plays. I find myself identifying almost more with my female characters than with my male characters. And I find that consistent with what's happening with punk and new wave too, because there are a lot of women guitar players and women drummers.
Well, how exactly do you want people to look at Dave Street and say, he is this? What exactly?
I'm the best new playwright in the world.
You can't top that.
Quote unquote.
Dave, do you think that the New Wave theater, do you think that in any way exposes decadence, such as violence or, transvestitism?
You see, well, it could. I mean, it can expose everything, because it's more of an attitude than actually, it's not like New Wave is transvestitism, New Wave is violence. New Wave is an attitude towards all of them. It's a way of looking at things. It's a space, it's a place in the universe. That's what New Wave is. It's a place you're coming from.
Is it accepting those values or rejecting those values? Or just
it's observing them. It's dealing with everything. It's not being afraid to deal with anything. Being a New Wave person in a true sense, in a creative sense, to me means confronting everything. Being enough of a person even to confront my own weaknesses as a man, so that I can actually, so if I say I demand certain changes in this society, that I myself as a person am going to admit my own personal weaknesses in order so that I know I have to overcome that. Whereas most people, most senators, most people with political power who have the power to change things don't, because they can't admit their own personal weaknesses as people. But to really be a punk, it means, yeah, I'm an asshole. Yeah, I know that I do a lot of bad things, but the reason I do it is because I've been programmed by the day one from all the fucking media images that this society puts in your head and makes you a robot, so that to be a progressive person, you have to consistently try to overcome all the brainwashing that, that the zombies have done to you.
Well, Dave, I'd like to ask one more question. What role does morality, what moral values does New Wave theater adhere to?
I can only speak for myself. And I try to have a lot of morality. I try to show both sides totally. I really don't try to say this is good or that's bad. I just observe. I've seen people who are violent. I've seen a person violent beat up somebody. The next day I've seen that person go out and volunteer their time to work with little children. So as a New Wave person, I'm just gonna try to show both sides of the same person. In terms of morality, I think my moral responsibility is to be honest. Honesty is my moral responsibility. Not saying that this is good or bad, but to be honest about it. I might not know the answers, but what I do know, I have a moral commitment to show. So that if I'm writing a play, and maybe I want my lead actor to come out good, but I know if in real life he's done really fucked up things, I have to, or if I'm writing a play about myself, trying to become famous, I can't just write about the good things about myself, because I've done some things when I've been in pressure situations that I'm not especially proud of, but I probably would do it again just because I was put in that situation by the people who control this structure. But for me to be honest, I have to show the bad things I've done as well as the good things. And I think that's what being a New Wave person is. It's admitting our weaknesses so we can build from them.
New York has always been known to have the best in off-Broadway, experimental theater. Two questions. One is, how does New Wave theater differ from experimental theater? And two, you'll be doing 2 nights at the Great Gildersleeve, which is more mainstream rock and roll in the city here. How do you think that your New Wave theater will appeal to more rock and roll conscious people rather than cult rock and roll people?
2 things. First of all, the first question you asked me was how does New Wave theater differ from experimental theater? New Wave theater is a kind of experimental theater. Experimental theater encompasses a lot of things, and New Wave theater is just one kind. The second question about how can I relate to another audience? For some strange reason, I usually relate best to middle-class America. In fact, it's usually the cultists who come to my play and tell me, you know, they weren't that excited, but it's usually all these middle-class people who come to my play and get turned on. That's because, in terms of, well, most of the middle classes used to watching cartoons, and they're used to watching soap operas. And I bring soap operas and cartoons to their logical absurd. So because of that, I think that most of America, from watching TV and cartoons, will buy my product right out. And I also write with a very game perception. I think I write from an upper middle to lower middle class perception of reality. I think I'll have no problem at all relating to those people.
Do you constantly change as you get reaction from your plays by the audience at large?
If I change, it's because of experiences I have in the real life that have shown me new things about human behavior or about myself as a human being.
If someone says to you, they like one particular part of the play more than the other, does that force you or make you consider that point, or would you drop something that the audience in general did not like?
I will consider everything. I consider everybody's criticism and everybody's input valuable, no matter who it is. But whether because one person would say they didn't like it would make me stop, I don't know if that's true. But in terms of music, what I'd like to do in the future, I'd like to write out little skits that illustrate the lyrics of different bands and have them actually performed on the side when bands were playing.
Do you think that this is something that should work its way into general rock and roll across the country, that putting play, the theater with rock, can that work?
I think it definitely will work. I think you have an audience, if it's good enough. I mean, like, we write short things, which is good. I mean, like, but if you have somebody who's going to put on an hour-and-a-half play without a break before the band plays, I think you'd bore the audience. But we do, you know, our longest thing we do is 15 minutes. Everything else is 3, 4, 5 minutes. You know, for 3, 4, 5 minutes, we do plays about people coming in and watching TV sets. You know, and rather watching cartons instead of TV sets, because there are no TV sets that work. But you get just as many good shows on an empty carton as you do on a TV set. So those are the kind of things, you know, we're writing. And something like that, a rock and roll audience can relate to, and they'll laugh at it. And we've made a point, and we've developed a character within 5 minutes, and then it's over. Now, you know, nobody's going to be bored for those 5 minutes.
And now you're going to see some real shit. Okay. Now you're going to see some real shit. You're going to see something that's going to be pretty historic. What you going to see? Okay. New Wave is more than just music. It's more than just culture. It's a lot of things. It's a philosophy of life. And for myself as a New Wave playwright, it's theater. Right now, what you're going to see is an excerpt from what is destined to become truly the first New Wave play. The name of this play is Rock and Roll Drops Dead at Studio 54. And it's about a punk terrorist plot to kidnap Andy Warhol and blow up the Studio 54 disco. Okay, in case you don't know it, about 3 weeks ago, Interview Magazine declared punk and new wave dead and passé. So right now, here tonight, we're declaring Andy Warhol dead and passé. And to further illustrate our point, I will now bring you into the bedroom of the only punk terrorist robot in America, Ramona Finkelstein, who at this very moment is rehearsing a speech that she is going to give to her gang of punk terrorists tonight when they further develop the plot to destroy Andy Warhol. And now I give you Rock and Roll Drops Dead at Studio 54.
Hi, I'm Andy Warhol. How'd you like to buy a Pioneer stereo? What? A Pioneer stereo! How'd you like to buy a see, one day soon, when you're walking down Park Avenue South to your factory, we're gonna... Giant's factory, you stupid! We're gonna abduct you off the street, and we're gonna bring you to our factory. What? Then we're gonna stick you in an empty room, and we're gonna trap you inside a giant wall of Camel soup cans.
Stick him with an empty room.
Yup, stick him in an empty room and with it too. Then we're gonna call up all your little faggot friends and Interview Magazine. What magazine? Interview Magazine. And we're gonna tell them if they don't put us, shut your fucking face. And then we're gonna call all your old friends and tell them if they don't put us on the front cover of the next issue, we are going to puncture little holes in all those soup cans so that cold Campbell's soup sprays out over the body of Andy Warhol like chilled piss. Like chilled piss! And speaking about piss, here is the best part of the plan. We're going to tell everybody to save their piss in bottles. And then, we're going to give them the address of Interview Magazine, which is located, shut up, which is located in the offices of Interview Magazine on Park Avenue South. Interview Magazine, you are deaf! We're going to tell everybody to bring their bottles of urine there and spill it all over the place so that Andy Warhol's factory becomes a piss factory. Then, when all those famous fashion designers like Halston and Yves Saint Laurent go there, they're all going to come out smelling like piss. And if they still won't put us on the cover, listen, you want to get up here and do this? Yeah. Now listen to me. And if they still won't put us on the front cover of the next issue, we're going to get even more Campbell soup cans. And we're going to pile them on top of Andy's boy. And then I, Ramona Finkelstein, will go down in history as having been the person to bury Andy Warhol in the tomb of Campbell soup cans. And then my picture is going to go on half the newspapers in the country. And then not only am I going to be more famous than you, Andy boy, but I'm going to be more famous than you and for more than 10 minutes. So I hope you like my little plan, people. After all, this is your definition of reality, not mine. This is just the beginning of all your self-destructive energy coming back to you. You see, Mr. Warhol, me and my perverted, sex-crazed friends are the Frankenstein monsters you